to you. Just going to read it. Thank you for all you do. Yes, you can.
Just that we're here. Yeah.
Okay.
Here in review.
I'm going to start. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started. I want to welcome everyone to our May 20th regular board meeting for Medina City Schools. If everyone would rise and please join me in reciting our Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Mr. Chambers for roll call.
Mr. Eastwood.
Here.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Here.
Mr. Skidmore.
Here.
Ms. Pavlik.
Here.
Mr. Ross.
Here.
Thank you.
Can I just point out the screen to the board? I just wanted to make sure that all the board members were aware that we are having technology difficulties. The meeting is being taped and broadcast tonight. We're just not able to see our bright and shiny smiles throughout the meeting.
Can I get a motion for approving the minutes from our regular meeting on April 15th, 2019?
I'd make a motion to accept the minutes from regular meeting, April 15th.
I'll
you.
second.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Discussion, I'm sorry. Seeing none, Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
And can I get a motion to approve the minutes from our work session on May 6th, 2019?
I'll make a motion to accept the approval of minutes for the work session, May 6th,
Thank you.
2019.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Discussion. Seeing none, Mr. Chambers?
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Abstain.
And Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Any additions, removals, modifications to our agenda this evening? Seeing none, if I can get a motion to accept our agenda for this evening.
I'll move that we accept the agenda as it's presented and in the consent format.
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Sable?
At this time, I'd like to invite Heritage, led by Mrs. Fedorenko, up to the front for, I believe, our final school presentation of this school year.
Good evening. Like Mr. Sable said, I'm Shannon Fedorenko, the principal at Heritage Elementary, and there are two things I want to highlight this evening, if I could. The first thing is we have a really strong Girl Scout troop, troop number 91204, and they have been strong at Heritage for a long time. And this year, I think it was last year, they started doing a project that I want them to share with you to improve Heritage. So they had a lot of good reasons for that, and so I'd like to turn it over to them. Okay, so Madison, you want to go ahead and get started?
So we did some service projects. Well, we do some service projects every year. A couple examples for some service projects we did was we volunteered at a food pantry. We went to Sea of Youth event for police officers, and we volunteered for the Spooky Walk.
Why caps for benches? Girl Scouts noticed that we only had one buddy bench on the grass. We needed to update our benches so we had more opportunities for the students to make friends.
One copy paper box equals 8 to 10 pounds, 40 to 50 boxes of caps. The company changed their rules and did not allow medicine bottles because they were clogging their machines. So it took Troop 91204 and 91196 2 years instead of 1. We had to make 100 caps. 400 caps. 400 pounds.
The process was, the first thing we had to do was collect, sort, clean, sort again, dry, and weigh. And this is a picture of us sorting and collecting.
These are a few pictures of us cleaning and sorting the caps. The benches will be ready at Heritage in July. For more information, you can go to this website.
So what I was most impressed with was their concern for lack of buddy benches on our playground, also their concern for recycling and helping our environment. And they really were behind the scenes. They weren't coming to me all the time saying, look what we're doing, Mrs. Federico. But then Mrs. Fritz and I were talking about when these benches were going to come to Heritage. And I know our PTO has worked with one of our teachers with box tops. We want to do a canopy with some different benches, and so I think that's what we're going to use the benches for, so stay tuned for that. But I'm just super proud of their efforts and all the things that our Girl Scouts do behind the scenes for Heritage and for our community, so thank you. That's a lot of cleaning of caps. It was a lot of caps, but I'm super proud. The second thing I want to show tonight is a video that one of our student teachers made when she was at Heritage, and it really highlights what we've done in our building to promote PBIS and to promote recognizing students and acknowledging students for doing good things all the time at Heritage, in class, out of class, helping our Heritage family. So with that, I'll just turn it over to our video.
PBIS, Heritage has implemented a reward system that recognizes students for their citizenship and leadership. Our Tier 1 acknowledgement system recognizes students for following Heritage expectations. Some of those expectations include taking care of our Heritage family, cleaning up after yourself, and using kind words and actions. Staff and students had fun teaching these expectations to students through videos. Heritage staff showed the wrong way of following the expectations, and the students acted out the correct way.
Here to talk about our leadership teams that we have here at Heritage. We have 3 different components that go into these leadership teams. The first one being that we teach leadership skills. We start up the groups and kind of model what we want the students to do and how they want to behave within our groups, and then they take ownership. We have a second component, which is the students will follow the rules, but then they choose which projects they want to do within their group. And the last component is share your gift, make your mark, and they get to pick among 13 different groups that will kind of appeal to what they're good at. So I run the color crew, and students that are interested in art will join my group. There's the music group. There's a group that has military correspondence, as well as the beautification, where they can do some gardening outside. There's a lot of different areas where they can feel comfortable and be part of that group. So it's a great experience here.
We use leadership tickets to recognize the 8 habits of happy kids. For example, begin with the end in mind, synergize, share your gift, make your mark. Teachers look for students who are implementing these leadership qualities and recognize them with green leadership tickets. Then the students turn them in, and on Fridays, one student from every grade level and one teacher is picked to make his or her mark on our bee statue with their fingerprint.
Heritage Heroes Luncheon is our highest form of recognition for our students. Each trimester, teachers are asked to pick 2 students who have gone above and beyond to show the 8 habits at Heritage. During the luncheon, students get a pizza lunch with staff members in our art room. Then they are moved to the music room for the celebration. At the beginning of the celebration, a speaker talks about how one of the 8 habits have made them successful. And we usually ask speakers to come in from our community or from our school district to talk to our children. After that, students are presented with a certificate where the words their teachers said about them are read out loud in front of the student and their parents. So the students get a little bit of leadership training, but they also get recognized for showing the highest level of leadership at Heritage Elementary.
So the 8th habit is find your voice, and at Heritage we've turned that into share your gift and make your mark. We really want, I can use musical accompaniment, that's fine. I can sing maybe if you want. But we've really tried to give students opportunities to figure out what they're good at. And it all goes with our state vision of college and career readiness, as far as starting to think very young about what gifts they have to share with others and how they can use those to help others, or as they get older to think about something they might want to do to contribute to our society. So that concludes our presentation, but certainly our Girl Scouts have shared their gift and made their mark, and I can't wait to see how their project turns out at Heritage. So thank you for listening. Any questions?
I'd like to just throw a hats off to all you guys for the work that you did. Was that 100 pounds of caps? 400 pounds of caps. Now, when you start a project like that some 2 years ago, it seems like for a lot of people, they're not even going to try because it's unsurmountable, right? You're never going to get it, but you got it. You did great. And kind of goes to show that anything you really want to set your mind to, you can do it. So congratulations and thank you for your effort. That's great.
Sure.
Thank you, Heritage. We're going to miss you guys over the summer, so if you want to come back in to any board meetings in June, July, or August, you are more than welcome.
And they can be excused now, right? Thank you.
And I'm happy that we have one of our high school organizations joining us today, our Gay Straight Alliance, otherwise known as GSA, to share a little bit of information about their organization. I do want to note, I saw on the agenda too, there's an item for approval for donations, so they can hang up a banner out in the main hallway with our other clubs and organizations. And this is a little taste of some of what we're looking at doing next school year and trying to highlight beyond our buildings some of the clubs and organizations we have going on as well across the district.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Adkins, and I was the GSA president throughout this past 2018 to 2019 school year. And I've been reelected, so I will continue to be the president in this upcoming school year. But up here with me to speak to you today is myself, as well as Tracy Gavel, Megan Brady, and our supervisor, Mrs. Ayler. We're just extremely grateful that we have been asked and welcomed to speak about our club, as well as thankful for all the support that you've given us over the past 10 years that our club has existed. So today we'd just like to tell you what our club has done in this past school year. And first to do that, I have Tracy Gavel to speak about our average monthly meetings.
Okay, so our club, the GSA, has done many different activities over the past year. Our executive board plans monthly meetings ahead of time to find out what supplies we need and how much money they cost and how the meeting will proceed. Attendance for these meetings is usually around 20 people, and each individual contributes to the activities, and the atmosphere is both engaging and respectful. In December, we had handmade blankets for the different LGBT centers in Ohio, and then in February, we put note cards with positive messages on every locker in the high school. The messages had many different quotes to make students feel like they were cared about and helps them take the stress off of their schoolwork. We also show movies with LGBT topics and great speakers such as librarians to share with us books with similar topics also. Our club wants to help others in our community and the student body as a whole to feel accepted and appreciated.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Board of Education, my name is Megan Brady, and I am here to inform you about a meeting that the GSA holds once or twice yearly, and which is known more formally as the Ally Coffee Break. In past years, we hold the meeting once a year, but for the first time this school year, we decided to hold the meeting twice, once in the fall and in the spring. This way, people could get a chance to go to a meeting even if they missed the one that we held in the fall. The Ally Coffee Break is not a fundraiser, but it is a get-together to raise awareness in the community. It is vital to our club, and it is one of the biggest events that we host all year. Refreshments are usually brought by our advisor, Miss Jennifer Ayler, ranging from coffee, of course, to teas and sodas. And members of the club also volunteer volunteer their time outside of school to bake fresh goods to bring to the meeting as well. Everyone sits together in the media center in the school library, and we discuss LGBTQ related topics such as the issue about gender neutral bathrooms, for example. I always look forward to seeing the friendly faces that come back year after year, such as Sandy Varndell from Out Support, Jeff Bixby from GLSEN, and representatives from United Way and Equality Ohio. This past spring meeting is when we were first approached by Mr. Ross. He asked what we thought could be done to improve the school system for LGBT individuals. We are so grateful that Mr. Ross spent the time to come and visit us and hear our concerns. And we are grateful for the opportunity to not only be listened to, but to be heard. We are standing before you today and giving you a reason to hear us. I am so appreciative on behalf of the Medina High School GSA that you have taken the time to listen to us and make an effort to change in accordance to our needs. We would not be at the place we are today without your help, and we would not have been able to have celebrated our 10th anniversary without your support. So thank you for your ears, and thank you for giving us your voices.
I'm Jennifer Ayler, and I'm the advisor of the GSA, and also I teach Honors Junior Language Arts and newspaper and advanced comp. And I'm speaking about the Day of Silence. In addition to the Ally Coffee Break, the Day of Silence is our other big thing that we do every year. We've been doing the Day of Silence since 2009. Our first year as a club. And over the years, we've had varying numbers. The first year, we had 9 students participate in the Day of Silence, and we've had up to 200. This past year, we had about 95 students participating in the Day of Silence. The Day of Silence is a student-led day of awareness in which they take a vow of silence in order to honor those who have faced, alienation or who have been bullied or whatever because of their gender or sexual identity. So it's always something that everyone looks forward to for the GSA. I participate every year by teaching silently that day. And the lessons that I do on that day include things that raise awareness about all people who are marginalized for whatever reason. And it is often the most popular lesson that I teach all year. Students say that even though they may not be a member of the GSA, they understand that a safe learning environment is important for all people, no matter how they identify, and so they appreciate my support. So it's something that I feel very proud of the GSA for, and you know, I support that. Yeah. So that's the day of silence. Yep. Go ahead.
So once again, we'd like to thank all of you for the support that you've constantly shown our club. And there have been moments where we have faced adversity this year, but thanks to support within the school, we've been able to face it. During the day of silence, there was a point while we were selling bracelets where a couple students decided to carry out the table that we had been using to sell bracelets. We later found it outside the middle auditorium. The sign was not found, though. But these students, however, were immediately punished for their actions, and we are extremely grateful for not only how quickly it was taken care of, but also how seriously this issue was taken, because it was taken as a very serious concern to the GSA as well as to the school's safety as a whole. And the fact that these acts of bullying are taken very seriously is something that we appreciate more than anything, and is something that we hope to emphasize in the future. During the Ally coffee break, I had discussed a similar point with several other members as well as Mr. Ross, and we had several ideas about wanting to express how the school is very against bullying. Ideas that we had was talking to incoming students, being told during freshman orientation that their actions would not be taken lightly, because that would send a message not only to the bullies, but also to those being bullied, that they have somewhere, like, that they are cared for and that they have somewhere safe to be within the school. We also hope that in the future we may be able to work alongside you and have a more inclusive school. During an April meeting where we had discussed a lot of topics that we had talked about during the Ally coffee break, as well as just topics the students brought up, we had several ideas, such as members of the club expressed thoughts that in the upcoming years we could possibly have gender-neutral bathrooms in our Medina High School for non-binary students, those who don't identify as either male or female. And we've also been fighting for higher levels of awareness by requesting a way to find a more inclusive health curriculum that could possibly include same-sex within their education process. So once again, I would like to thank Mr. Ross for offering us this opportunity to speak at this meeting in front of all of you. And it means a lot for your constant support that has been provided to us. It means a lot to us, and we can't wait to continue making this school a kinder and safer place. Any questions?
I do. Yes, we do support you because we do want to be inclusive. Okay. But the question I had was, when is that day of silence?
The Day of Silence, it changes every year.
Okay.
I don't know if there's an exact date. It tends to be a certain Friday of every school year. You can easily look it up on, I believe I don't remember the exact website, but
it's usually like the second Friday of April. So this year it was the 11th. It's usually.
But it's not Medina. It's
nationwide.
It's a national day of silence. Yeah.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
And the other question that I had was, so you're going to graduate one day.
Yes.
And the GSA is going to continue.
Mhm.
What are the goals that you want to see continue after you leave here for Medina High School?
Well, after I leave, I hope that the GSA continues to function not just as it does now, but better, especially because I've seen a lot of the incoming freshmen, and I do have a lot of faith that they will continue to make the club amazing. But just in general, I hope that it continues to be a safe, inclusive place where someone who may be nervous at their first meeting can immediately feel like they don't have to worry about being themselves, that they are immediately accepted within Mrs. Ayler's room. Because that's what the club was to me. It was a place where I didn't have to worry about what I seemed like or if I was weird, because I was immediately accepted by a bunch of different people. And I just really want the club to continue to be that for the new freshmen.
Well, I just want to thank you for presenting. You all are very courageous, and we do want to continue to support you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And I don't know if anybody else had questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment on the Allied coffee. That was fantastic. I've been to numerous meetings, but that was probably the first one at the roundtable forum that you had set up with the questions and the conversation. I really think there was a lot of positives that came out of that. And I was encouraged with the conversation being, you know, a lot of people have perceptions of, you know, somebody's trying to complain about something. You guys are all about trying to find solutions. I applaud that and encourage that we can continue communicating in that vein. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for attending tonight. I agree with Mr. Eastwood about the Ally Coffee. I'm glad that you're able to have it twice a year now. That is great. I look forward to the one in the fall. And thank you for all that you do for our district and also for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And you all are as well invited throughout the summer, anytime you'd like to attend one of our meetings.
Hey, you're invited to the Ally Coffee.
And I've been there every year. Don't feel like you have to stick around, but you're welcome to stay. You ever heard that at a board meeting before? Third thing on my list for discussion is enrollment numbers. Just wanted to provide a quick update for the board as well as for the community. As you know, we've been working with the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, and we just got back some initial information from them regarding draft projections, and it still is in draft format, and that's why I'm not ready to really get into detail yet, but we will make this document eventually available to our community. I would anticipate probably sometime this summer. I did want to tell you generally, it looks like the trends that are predicted are what we had anticipated was happening. And that is, they are predicting that up through 2028, we should, as a district, stay fairly stable in terms of our enrollment. So not a major drop or a major gain. However, we are seeing shifts in where our population is located in terms of students. That's why we've seen the overcrowding starting to trickle in Northrop as well as Waite, and why we need to continue to have the discussion about redistricting, because those communities are projected to continue to grow, while some of our older communities are projected to either stay as is or even decline in enrollment. So again, I will make those reports available to the public sometime over the summer, once they are no longer a draft form and the board has an opportunity to really take a close look at those. But the good news was no surprises. I think the big thing we hear is, with all the new developments going up, are we just going to boom and have trailers like we did 10, 15 years ago? And that doesn't look like it's the case. Yes, we are seeing growth and development, but we're also seeing decline in other areas, which is kind of leveling out the enrollment. Next up, summer school. I'm not sure whether Tina or Matt, but one of our two great curriculum coordinators is going to present on the awesome opportunities we have over the course of the summer. I want to tell the board, if you haven't had an opportunity to step in on our summer school programming, it's really outstanding programming, and I would say tops definitely in the area when you're talking about the STEM programming, and I know we are now STEAMing, not just STEMing. But invite Matt down. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good evening. Yeah, we are very excited to once again offer a variety of inquiry-based summer enrichment opportunities for students. And our goal is really to engage students in learning experiences that extend beyond a typical school day or school year. It's not really summer school in the remedial sense. It's really true enrichment open to all students. So this is our second summer of Explore STEM, or as Mr. Sable said, Explore STEAM this year. It's a 1-week summer enrichment program open to all incoming 5th through 8th grade students. And the program is designed to engage students in real-world problem solving through a series of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics challenges. And new this year, we have added the A, and we'll be offering arts and humanities exploratories, drama, and world language and culture exploratories. And also new this year, students will be innovators and creators in the Claggett Middle School Makerspace. The aim is to connect learning from their STEAM modules to real-world applications in an inquiry-rich environment. So students will begin the week with a focus on team collaboration at the Medina County Career Center Outdoor Ropes Challenge course. And then students will select from 5 inquiry topics and meet at Medina High School for the next 3 days to work in teams on a new challenge each day. And each group will have the opportunity to visit the Claggett Makerspace for 1 day to make connections to their learning. The inquiry topics this year include design and build. How does the structure and design of an item impact its function? Water is life. How does water impact our daily lives? Count what matters. How can science improve our lives? The actor's studio. How can the stage open our eyes to a whole new world? And world languages and cultures. How can understanding new languages and cultures encourage empathy? In the end of the week, students will round things out with an exhibition open to parents and community members, where students will showcase their learning and celebrate their accomplishments. And throughout the week, local career professionals working in STEAM-related fields will work side by side students on STEAM challenges. The program begins on Monday, June 24th, and goes through Friday, June 28th, 8:30 till noon at Medina High School. Tuition is $125, and registration is now open on the district website. Finally, new this summer, we are also proud to offer a theater workshop program for 9th through 12th grade students called Performance and Production. Now, this is a 7-week course culminating in a full-length production of a play. The workshop begins on June 3rd with a focus on the fundamentals of theater, and the program orients students to all the facets of producing a play. Then students will apply what they have learned through the performance of a full-length play in late July. So our goal is really to continue to grow our summer enrichment opportunities each year, and we actually plan to offer an even broader range of K-12 enrichment camps for students moving into the summer of 2020. So the goal is to just keep on building and growing the programming.
Outstanding, Matt. Love to hear what you're doing. The June 28th, you said 8:30 to noon. The parent thing with the community, is that at noon as well at the end of the week, or is that later at night?
We're still finalizing the schedule, but that will be during the time of the normal camp hours, so somewhere between 8:30 and noon.
Okay.
Last year, we invited parents and community in around 10 o'clock. And we have presentations as students prepare throughout the week, and then we have kind of an exhibition fair where people can rotate around and see all of the work that students have done throughout the week.
Okay, and the 7-week program for the plays, is that just high school kids, or did you say middle school as well, or?
That's for high school kids, 9th through 12th grade.
9th through 12th grade.
And then we also are offering the middle school actors studio as part of the Explore STEAM. So we actually have drama and theater programming for grades 6 through 12.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a certain capacity that is available, or is it kind of flexible based on applications and people who have interest?
It's open to any and all. We're really encouraging as many kids to come out and join us. We had about 50 students last year. Our goal this year is 70, but we'd be open to more. We have the staff to accommodate the enrollment numbers. So.
Okay. And is there, by chance in the application process, is there any kind of caveat for assistance if somebody wanted to be involved but possibly couldn't pick up the tab?
Yes, there is financial assistance available, and folks can contact me directly, and I'll work with them and make sure that they have an opportunity.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
And last, I just wanted to run through some dates on the calendar as we wrap up our school year. We have many opportunities to celebrate our students and their successes over the course of the past school year or their school careers. So on the 21st, which is tomorrow, is our annual Senior Awards ceremony held here in the PAC for the high school. The 22nd is the Career Center Awards. That begins at 7:30, and that's here in our gym, and that does recognize all of the Medina schools that attend the Career Center. The Baccalaureate is on the 23rd at 7 o'clock at Cornerstone Chapel. Strings in the Park is scheduled for the 24th, and the reason why I say scheduled for the 24th is because we have not been very lucky in terms of weather. And I do know that as of late last week, there were some issues with the ground being soaked in the park, which doesn't really do well with string instruments or metal chairs. If we do have weather-related issues, we will be canceling that event, and we'll let everybody know through our website as well as social media. Commencement, rain or shine, is occurring. Commencement is actually next Saturday already at the JAR, and I'm looking forward to that. I think it's the year, I'm sorry. This Saturday, right, the 25th. Oh, well, I'm still on the weekend. This next Saturday, on the 25th. And it's the year of the central office graduation. So I think we have several administrators who have children that are going to be graduating on Saturday. And last but not least is on May 30th, the end of the school year dance party at 5 o'clock. It's scheduled for Medina Square. If we do have poor weather, which unfortunately we did last year, we're going to be moving that over to the recreation center. And one last thing I wanted to mention as well that's actually not on here, but we have our last community chat coming up. And I'm going to turn to Amy for the date real quick. June 11th is our last community chat at 6 o'clock right here in this room. And just as we did last year, we're going to be reviewing our strategic plan with a focus on the things that we've already accomplished within the plan, which is quite a lot, and then talking about what work we still need to do as we're heading into the middle of that strategic plan.
What time was it?
6 o'clock right here.
Good evening. The district bank balance decreased $3.6 million in April to $83 million. This is roughly $1 million below last year at this time. General fund revenues were below last April by $1.2 million. The main cause of this was real property taxes. Part of that deals with the federal tax change that occurred at the beginning of last year. As more people paid their taxes at the beginning of the year, the beginning of the fiscal year, which was July of last year, saw a decrease which carried through all the way through this year. General fund expenditures were above last April by $2.2 million. All of the personal services, benefits, purchase services, supplies, and capital contributed. This is part of the strategic plan that the superintendent mentioned. Not all, as he keeps telling me, not all, but it's part. The sales tax fund balance is up to $3.698 million. The district spent approximately $16,800 in April. The largest portion of this was for their Fleet Master agreement, which was around $10,000. The district also received $865,000 from sales tax distributions. This is the last distribution for the fiscal year, and we received $13,000 in donations. The Recreation Center capital fund balance is up to $599,000. The district received monies here from the city of Medina in form of $1,800. Sorry, got ahead of myself. No, I was thinking that would have been good too. The district has also received $152,000 in investment income for April. The total collected for the current fiscal year is approximately $316,000 above the total collected for all of 2018 fiscal year. And right now we're at 80.1% of collections for the last 2 years. And finally, the general fund true days cash is estimated to be roughly $276,000. This is down from March by 14 days and below last year by 16 days. And this does show you that, once again, with our 2 days cash, it does show you that we are drawing down on our balances as we projected with the substitute levy back in May. Any questions? Thank you. I have to report on the 5-year forecast. It's mandated by the state of Ohio. Again, it's a mandate that only goes out to school districts in the state. No other governmental entity has to put out a 5-year forecast publicly. The 5-year forecast sort of looks like this. Here, let me do this as they do in, Wheel of Fortune. It looks like that. Basically, in May here, all we do is update the forecast itself on what has occurred for this year. The rest of the projections, we really feel that the projections are fairly square. What has occurred and what is shown on the current forecast is that the general fund is down, as reported by the property taxes that were collected in 2018. This has affected what we're reporting for the rest of the forecast. We also have our public utilities, which dropped last year because we had a taxpayer file with the state. He filed in the wrong taxing district, and so you'll see that our monies this year are below last year because even though he filed in the wrong district last year, it affects us this year and going forward. But we are projecting that public utilities will continue to increase. Our unrestricted granted aid, now this is like a shot, a dart, a throw of a dart, because the general legislature is talking about possibly getting new funding formula out there. They're also talking about just increasing funding for school districts all the way through for, why are we increasing funding for school districts? There's two, yes, he has that. There's 2 areas that Governor DeWine wants to increase for, but it's in the House. It's still in the House. Once it gets through the House, it's going to go to the Senate. As I said, it's a shot in the dark. So what we've basically used on the forecast was what we already know, the formula that we already know, the formula that we've been working with. And the formula that we already know shows us with the stabilization with our students and with increase in valuations, we're going to be losing money from the state. So down and dirty. We have our restricted grants and aid, which are very few monies, economic development, and let's see, what else is in there? Economic development and disadvantaged students, in career tech. Property tax allocation follows the taxes itself. They're down a little bit here. They'll be rising as taxes increase. The one thing with property tax allocation is we're no longer receiving the tangible personal property tax loss reimbursement funds. So, all other operating revenues, that includes investment income, and as we move down with our balances and spend down our balances, our availability for investments are going to be decreasing, so we see that our other resources will be decreasing. Now on the other side, let's go to expenditures. Our personal services. As we're increasing our strategic plan here, we're looking at increasing costs for personnel, and that is reflected throughout the forecast itself. Same thing with benefits. Benefits follow personnel. As personnel increases, so does the cost for the benefits. We did project that we were going to have a 4% increase on our medical and dental, and right now we're still looking at that 4% all the way through. Purchase services. Our purchase services are projected to go up. A large portion of these deal with school districts have to pay for certain items. Students with disabilities we have to account for, and if those students with disabilities have a high cost, then we have to pay for those to outside sources. We also pay tuition for students in other forms, and so the costs we're projecting are going to be going up as well. Supplies and materials, we're looking at, in 2020, we're looking at safety and security payments going out for supplies and materials, and that's why you see a jump in the safety or in the supplies itself. Capital outlay, again, we're looking for safety and security items in fiscal year 2020. And then your other objects, the other objects are sort of tainted here because those things include payments out to the county auditor for collections of property taxes. And, I don't like paying out anything, but when our county auditor collects the taxes, they take the monies away from us before they give it to us. So we have to pay that out. And I'll just leave the rest of that there. Any questions on the 5-year forecast?
No questions, Mr. Chambers, but I just wanted to recognize you for the notes that you include in that forecast. You do a nice job detailing in words the public can more easily understand what those charts and numbers represent. Pages 9 and 10 are great examples of that.
Thank you.
But also, you mentioned the state. So if the state does come through with a plan, then all this, we throw it in the trash and start over?
Only the one line on the forecast will be trashed and start over.
Okay. Do you anticipate that happening soon, or?
Anything with legislation could happen, yes.
Okay.
You know that.
Well, and I would like to remind the board, this is very useful information. We appreciate Mr. Chambers doing it. What we're approving, though, is that it's done. We're not necessarily approving the actual numbers or the assumptions. We're approving it's completed, correct? As per a requirement per the Department of Education.
It is a requirement, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chambers. Anybody else? Any board communications?
Let's see, I traveled to the Ohio State University on April 27th to watch both the high school and Root Middle School's teams compete at the 35th Annual Science Olympiad State Competition. Out of the 40 teams who converged from all over the state, the high school placed 21st and Root placed 29th. The competition was stiff. The first place winners from both the middle school and the high school came from Solon. They'll go on to Cornell University. I've heard their program actually has tryouts to make their team. I like to think maybe in a few years that can happen for us because the program is gaining traction. This year marks the first time in school history that the Science Olympiads can earn a letter when participating. This academic recognition will certainly stand out on future college and job applications, and it shows the commitment the district has as we continue to strive for academic excellence and opportunities for our students. And then following that, the week later, on May 4th, I was honored to MC the award ceremony for the 7th Annual Elementary Science Olympiad Tournament, hosted here by the Medina High School team here at the high school. And teams came from all over the county, including Menlo Park Academy. We had a couple of visiting teams. Our middle stage auditorium was packed with students, parents, and coaches. Not only did I have the privilege of announcing the winners there, but I was also able to award the letters to the high schoolers, so that was neat. I told the younger kids that just a few short years ago, our high schoolers were sitting in those same seats, and if they stuck with it, that hopefully that it could be them up on the stage soon. So it was exciting to be part of that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
It's a busy time of year, and trying to make everything is probably impossible, I think, for boards. But I pointed out, I think pretty much everybody on the board was able to make the April 20th Hall of Fame dinner, and that was a really nice time that we all had. We had policy on May 1st, and then in the Career Center, I'm busy out there this year. I'm serving as president, and we had the National Technical Honor Society the same night that Medina had theirs, and so that was an honor to be there for that. And then April 30th, they had a continuous improvement meeting that they do when they present from all the different departments at the Career Center and continue to share their strategic vision. So things are going on there as well as here at Medina. We're looking forward to graduation this week, and I think we have things probably every night of the week this week as we prepare for that. So we're looking forward to the push here and to see the kids this Saturday, which is always an incredible honor to be part of that. So thank you.
Mrs. Pavlik and I attended the district curriculum meeting earlier today, a couple hours ago, and learned more about the STEAM camp coming up from Mr. Maddie, as well as the plan for the makerspaces. As we all know, there's one at Claggett and Garfield. They've been working with Root to have theirs up and running by the beginning of the school year. And the goal is also to have all the remaining elementaries having their makerspaces in place sometime during next school year. And that is in line with our strategic plan of IBL, inquiry-based learning. So I'm excited to see those up and running. And then we want everyone to save the date for the Parent Ed Camp that's coming up. I believe it's our 3rd year in a row that the district is doing this. And each year there's new and improved. It becomes new and improved. This year there's going to be 3 sessions. The first will be September 25th with a focus on technology. And again, there will be 3 sessions that parents and community members may attend. The second session will be on college and career readiness and information, January 22nd of 2020. And then the final one will be April 22nd with a focus on innovation. And tentatively, they're looking at the Genius Hour, which is something several of the elementary schools have. But the big one that I'm excited about is parents will be, and community members will be invited to be involved in the makerspace. So they're going to have a makerspace and adult time to be creative in the makerspace. So I think that's pretty cool. So along with everything else that's going on. So we're excited about that. A lot of good things are happening in the district.
I just wanted to communicate 3 things to the community and everyone. Number one, congratulations to the staff, all the staff members and the students who performed at Showtime 2019. They called it Ignite. This was a great performance. I mean, you'd think you're at Playhouse Square when you're watching that show. It's just unbelievable. And a lot of times my wife and I are like, we can't believe these are high school kids. So it was a wonderful performance. Tyler Skidmore, fantastic job, and all the staff. So a lot of kudos for that program. The second thing is, Mr. Chambers has a tough job. If you ever tried to understand the school funding, formula or whatever, I've been trying for 8 years now.
I've only known you for 5, so.
All right. Well, I'm going before with Mr. Hudson and previous treasurer. It's tough. It's really difficult. But we appreciate all the work that you do. And I want to read something because this just happened recently. And sometimes the treasurers don't get the recognition that they deserve. And I think this is very important for everybody to know. The state audited Medina schools for the 2017-2018 fiscal year. And they do that every year. They audit us. This particular audit began on September 4th and was completed and filed with the Federal Clearinghouse on March 29th. The audit showed no material weaknesses or deficiencies in internal control on the financial statements and on the major federal programs. In recognition of the honor, the State Auditor's Office presented a certificate for excellence in financial reporting to the district. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is something we don't see that often. So I'm very proud of you, Mr. Chambers, very proud of your staff and all the hard work you guys do and making sure our finances are straight. And
Stop it. Just stop it.
And I want to thank you for that.
Thank
So I had to read that. And the third thing is, yeah.
Thank you very much. Could I address that?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, let me address that, please. First of all, you thank me for this, you thank my staff, but it's those people out there, the directors, it's the secretaries at the buildings, it's the principals at the buildings, it's the cashiers, It's the managers of the cafeteria. It's, you know, it's all those people that follow control. They're the ones that make sure everything is done right. I'm at the end here. I just look at it and say, okay, this looks right, this doesn't look right. So those are the people you got to thank. I'm just the, you know, tail of the dog here. That's the dog up there. So, okay, that's all I have to say.
Okay, well said. And I want to thank everyone, of course, who's involved. And Team Medina is the goal. We're all in this together. So thank you. And the last thing is, I want to thank Mrs. Parkhurst for this. We're having a school board chat on June 1st, 2019, 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock at the library. And the topic is going to be anybody in the community who is thinking about school board service, come and join us, and we'll fill you in on our experiences and what you're in for. All right, that didn't come out right. Okay. Not that.
I think we want to encourage people to come.
We do. We absolutely want to encourage it. And honestly, I love my school board service. It's very challenging, but it's also very rewarding. And we want to share that with the community and anybody who's interested in coming and thinking about running. So June 1st at Medina Library, Community Room A, I think it is, 9 o'clock. Anybody else? Okay. We'll go into our action items.
If it pleases the board, I'd like you to look at the treasurer's reports. It's recommended that Board of Education approve the April 2019 treasurer report. Item number 2 is supplemental to permanent appropriations. It's recommended that Board of Education approve the following supplemental to the 2018-19 permanent appropriations. If you're looking at the supplementals here, a lot of them are to finish the year off, but you go down to the 500s. And back in January, I mentioned that the state will be changing monies on us basically on a monthly basis. And here's the latest changes that occurred, and Tina and her group really do a good job of trying to keep up with this, and then they have to wait for you guys to approve the supplementals before they could do anything with them. But so we're just trying to get those done for her. Then we have item number 3, fund-to-fund transfers. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the following fund-to-fund transfers. The general fund, we had a energy bond that had interest due here in, I believe it was April 1st, so we're moving monies over to cover those payments. And then I was told there's not going to be another bicentennial, and so we're moving the monies from the bicentennial to the Bike to School funds. So, and finally, there's a then and now purchase. You like that one, right? Thank you. Then there is a then and now purchase order. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the following then and now purchase order: safety systems and controls. This is a purchase order made by the Transportation Department. The dollar figure was over what I could approve on any then and now, so I'm looking at the board to approve a $3,700 purchase order that was done after the fact. And finally, you have your 5-year forecast. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the May 19 5-year forecast and notes to comply with the State of Ohio Department of Education requirement. Questions? Thank you.
I would make a motion to accept treasurer's action items as presented.
I'll second.
Board discussion on any of the treasurer action items? Is there any discussion or comments that would like to be made from the community? Anybody wishing to come and speak? Seeing none? Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Sable.
Donations. I'd like to highlight once again our donation for GSA for their banner out in the main hallway, and when we go into executive session. You can take a look right overhead as we head towards the front of the building, towards the main office. In addition, I want to point out the amount of donations that our student organizations are making out to support various communities, initiatives such as Colin Cares. So I think it's important that we're not just accepting, but our student groups, just like GSA, are working to raise funds on their own to give back to our own community. Textbook adoptions. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt the following textbooks for the 1920 school year, and these books were presented at our last meeting, and these include foreign language textbooks, including French. We are moving on to adding year 2 of French, so we need to add textbooks to teach that language. In addition to that, we are moving forward with our math adoptions at the high school, which we underwent the adoption actually a year or 2 ago, but we've been phasing it in, so this is the next phase of that adoption. Number 3, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following revised bylaw for a first reading. The bylaw will not be presented to the board for final approval and potential adoption until the regular June 2019 Board of Education meeting. And this is a fairly simple bylaw. We actually have to clarify our district name within board policy, so that needed an update. Number 4, it is recommended that the Board of Education review for the second time with possible adoption the following new revised and rescinded policies and revised bylaws. I think the ones to really point out here is the changes in our graduation requirements. I'd like to thank our curriculum department, Dr. Kwolek, as well as our high school guidance department and high school principal, Mr. Harrison, for all of the work and effort they put into this. Not only to make the updates, but to work with our students and work with our community in order to implement these updates. And they include an increase in the graduation requirements for our students graduating from high school, as well as a transition to a Latin system for recognizing our students upon graduation. So they'll have the opportunity to earn cum laude and magna cum laude. Which is going to give us a chance to recognize more students, and it's going to be part of our strategic plan as well, which we heard loud and clear from our community that they wanted more academic recognition for our high school students, so it's part of that initiative as well. Number 5 is our annual contract with the Education Service Center of Medina County. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the service agreement between the Education Service Center of Medina County and the Medina City School District for the 1920 school year. A couple things to highlight. You will see that there is a decrease in this contract this school year. We have made the decision to bring some of the services that we were contracting out into the district, and those are ELL, English Language Learner Services. The reason why we have made this decision is because we have seen a dramatic increase in enrollment with our ELL population. So now with the numbers of teachers that we need to service our students, it makes more fiscal sense in order to just offer that service internally rather than contracting it out. In addition, and we began doing this approximately 3 years ago, we will be coming back to the board if we need any further services from the ESC. We have not checked all the boxes. So if we need an increase in services at some point next school year or need to add services, we'll be coming back to our board in order to do that. Number 6, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the Juvenile Detention Center program agreement between the Medina County Juvenile Detention Center and the Medina City School District for the Medina City Schools to provide educational services for students at the Juvenile Detention Center between June 3rd, 2019 through August 9th, 2019. This program is funded by grants and sending districts. So these are required services. We are the academic service provider for the Juvenile Detention Center. So our teachers, Medina teachers, aren't just providing services for our students, but for students across the county as well, and then we're reimbursed by those other districts. Number 7 is a second juvenile detention contract. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the service agreement between the Medina County Juvenile Detention Center and the Medina City School District. When executed, will allow the Medina City Schools to provide educational services to Medina County students who are confined to that facility commencing August 19th, 2019 through May 20th, 2020. And again, this is an annual contract, and this is for the upcoming school year already. Number 8, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following extended school year service agreements for the 18-19 school year. We have a whole list of services. These services are mandated per student's individual education plans. So these are for special education students. These students have been identified as part of their plans to show a significant decrease in their academic retention rates. Therefore, they need to have extra supports provided over the summer so they can hit the ground running in August once we start the new school year. Number 9, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreement, and this is for a piece of software called Volunteer Now. The initial cost with setup is $5,500. There will be an annual fee of $5,000. As I'm sure you've seen over the last couple years, we've had a drastic increase in volunteers that have been being recommended to the Board of Education. This is because we've been doing our due diligence to ensure that people from the outside that are coming in to work with our students are safe to work with our students. So they get FBI fingerprinted, which we cover for our volunteers. They're recommended to the board, and that way we ensure that our students are safe. I want to thank our communications department, particularly Ms. Busby, for her work on this initiative. In the past, we've been keeping an Excel spreadsheet. It's been a cumbersome process because of the size of our district and the amount of volunteers, which is a great thing. So this should streamline that process, not only at the district level, but at the building level as well, as our building principals are working with PTOs and other organizations in ensuring that our volunteers have gone through the vetting process. Number 10, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreements. Again, these are special education agreements per students' IEPs, with the exception of the PBIS rewards motivation systems. And this is to allow access to the elementary buildings to support the PBIS initiatives in terms of tracking rewards. Number 11, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreements. Ohio Schools Council, which is the electronic vendor audit system or electronic payroll audit system, and this is for our treasurer's office. Parchment, unlimited credentials for up to 3,000 currently enrolled students and alumni. This second service agreement has to do with the high school and students being able to request, as well as having their records sent to colleges, universities, or trade schools. In the past, this is a cost that the state covered for us. The state is no longer covering this cost, so we are now picking it up. Number 12, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the stipend payments to Ms. Renee Kennedy and Ms. Jessica Dialing in the amount of $150 each, and Ms. Sarah Simpson in the amount of $375 for being cooperating teachers for 2 Kent State University students during the spring semester of 2019. Field trips. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following overnight field trip in compliance with Policy 2340 for the 18-19 school year. This is occurring just in 3 or 4 weeks actually, and this is a basketball camp that our girls have attended in the past. Number 14, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following overnight field trip in compliance with Policy 2340 for the 1920 school year as well. This is our choir department trip to New York City, which will be coming up next school year, 2020, as well as our volleyball camp, which will also be occurring over the summer, but not until July. And this, again, is a camp that they have attended in the past. Personnel. We have a whole bunch of personnel on the agenda tonight. Every year, by June 1st, I need to make recommendations to our Board of Education to approve contract renewals for employees across the district. Included are teachers, certified staff, also our administrators, whether they're building level or district level administrators, and they are as listed. I do want to note that the teacher contracts, you see those split up in 1, 2, and 3-year contracts. That is per our negotiated agreement with MCTA. Our administrator contracts are on the agenda tonight as a 2-year recommendation. In addition, there is a RIF, a reduction in force, on this agenda, and that is for Chinese at the high school. Due to a decrease in enrollment in the program over the course of the last several years, we no longer have a high enough enrollment for a full-time teacher. At this time, and I say at this time because we have to continue to watch the student numbers and make sure it's fiscally responsible and viable to continue to offer the program. But at this time, we are not looking at eliminating the program. We are still going to be offering all levels of Chinese, and we're hopeful that we'll see an uptick in the attendance. But our student enrollment does drive our staffing, and this is a challenging example of that. It's not a fun part of the job when we're looking at a decrease in a teaching position. We also have several retirements, as it is the end of the year, on the agenda. And thank you to Jim Shields for providing me with some updates on these employees. They offered quite a number of years of experience in the district. First, I want to mention our teachers. Lynn Varney. Lynn spent 31 years teaching and working exclusively at Garfield Elementary School. The majority of those years were spent teaching 3rd grade, but Lynn is retiring at 2nd grade. Lynn is a Medina High School graduate and has a daughter who is now a teacher in the district. Lynn is looking forward to retirement, volunteering in her daughter's classroom. Jenny Scott, special education teacher. She is retiring from 26 years with the Medina City Schools. Jenny worked her whole career in the district with the preschool program. She has worked in a variety of buildings as the preschool program has been housed in many different locations over her 26 years with the district. Jenny earned her master teacher designation while working in the district and has always led the way with innovative strategies to help our preschool students with special needs. Jim Corkin, Heritage 3rd grade teacher. He's retiring with a total of 30 years in education. He has served 21 years with Medina City Schools, teaching primarily 4th or 5th grades, but is finishing out his career this year teaching 3rd grade. Jim worked many years at Ella Canavan and has worked the last 4 years at Heritage Elementary. Jim has 2 children that graduated from Medina, and his wife, Christy, who will continue to work at Medina City Schools as an intervention specialist as Jim starts his work on his retirement. Combined, these 3 teachers have dedicated 78 years of their careers and their lives to the children and students and community of the Medina City Schools. We also have a few classified resignations for the purpose of retirement. Lori Fawcett, Heritage paraprofessional. She's worked for Medina City Schools for 19 years and is retiring and moving to Florida this summer. Lori has worked at Root Middle School, Medina High School, and Heritage Elementary School. Lori enjoys working with Medina students, but plans to now focus all of her energy spending lots of time with her own grandchildren. Sandy Ugalis, Medina High School media professional. Sandy's retiring after working for Medina City Schools for 22 years, plus additional years subbing prior to being hired. Sandy is a mainstay of the high school media center. She goes above and beyond to keep materials updated and to make the space a welcoming and helpful resource for students. And combined, these two employees have served our district for 41 years and have served our students as well for 41 years. Any questions for me? Oh, one other thing I did want to mention, I'm sorry. It seems odd that we have so many volunteers on here, considering we are heading into the last couple of weeks of school. The reason why is because we have a lot of field trips this time of year. So we have a lot of extra parent volunteers that want to step up and help out with all the various field trips that are occurring at our elementary buildings as well as our middle schools.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the superintendent's action items.
I'll second that.
Board discussion.
Mr. Sable, I just have a quick question regarding the volunteer now. Just wanted to clarify that the vendor keeps the volunteers' information private and is not going to sell it to any third-party marketing. I know we all get swamped with those telemarketer calls once we sign up for something new. So I just wanted to clarify if that situation.
Yep, they are fully protected, and that's why we're using a paid system and investing the money to ensure that not only is the process easier and more streamlined, but also people are protected.
I just make a comment on the retirements. The fact that so many of those individuals you commented on were 20 plus years, sometimes 30 years. The district will definitely feel that as they move on to their next step. And we navigate through adding people to our staff. But I think we're blessed to have people who make Medina a home for that kind of period of time, and the families are benefited from the consistency through some good times, through some rough times. So just a tip of the hat again to those who served, and a shout out. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree, Doug. I want to thank them as well for their service. Any other board discussion? Is there any?
I have quick. I know that just the policy committee alone has probably hours working on this, and Chris, I'm sure, a ton, and others. But anytime we go through these agendas, you forget how many hours are involved in putting them together. So I would guess there's probably 100 hours or more in these agendas, minimally. But we spent, over the last several months, we spent a lot of time talking about the graduation requirements, and now I'm glad to see that we're able to offer an additional it was a half credit, I believe, for students to keep them involved and to increase the requirements. That's great, and I'm happy that we've come up, that Mr. Harrison's recommended through the panel the Latin recognition system with Summa, Magna, and Cum Laude. And I think that's great because we definitely want to be able to recognize more students. So I'm in favor of that. And I wouldn't be true to myself if I didn't say I still kind of wish we would recognize valedictorian and maybe salutatorian. And I guess we haven't technically probably had that in our policy since probably 1994. Although when you go to graduation, the top 10 are listed, and so you know who the first is and so forth. But I do think it's important to still, even though that competition creates stress with students, and we don't want to create extra stress, but I do think that having that level of competition is really good. So I'm in favor of everything we're doing tonight. I'm in favor of having the three categories. and I think that's great because we'll have more students fill those categories. But and I think it's up to the administration of whether or not how we recognize the top 10 or the top 40 or however we do that. But I think it's really important that people still strive for those top positions. And I think that's, I know there's a trend to do away with that nationally. And I still think that competing for those top level positions is important. So I just wanted to state that. Thank you.
I just want to mention, I agree with everything that Mr. Skidmore said. You know, when you go through your education career and you are the top of your class, that name should be blasted out everywhere. So I agree.
Thank you. Any member of the community wish to come up to the podium and comment on the superintendent's action items? Seeing none. Mr. Chambers.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
And this next action item, again, you talk about the hours put into things. This has been several hours by quite a committee across the district. I want to thank Ryan O'Cole and Tina Cassidy in particular for their leadership and guidance in developing a technology committee to explore what the future of technology is in our district. One of the things that I felt was really lacking from our strategic plan was this technology component. I do think we have a responsibility to not only teach our students how to be safe when using technology, but the appropriate way to use it to help make learning and work better. The committee consisted of teachers and administrators from across the district and across grade levels. What they developed in terms of moving forward is a one-to-one initiative. So the intent of this initiative is that beginning with the next school year, we would be issuing all of our high school students Chromebooks. Those Chromebooks would be issued similarly to what a textbook or how a textbook is issued. They would have the opportunity, or they would be expected to actually, transport those devices back and forth and have them in class as one of their class materials and supplies. And that is at cost to the district. Students, just like if a textbook were damaged, would be responsible for the Chromebook as well. We're going to be offering an insurance policy, which is outlined within the public content here, I think in the device agreement or in the handbook that's put together for this district initiative. We're not only going to be moving one-to-one or would like to move one-to-one at the high school, but at the middle schools as well. We have a little bit different format for the middle school approach. Those students will be issued devices for use in school. The intent is not for those devices to go home. Unless they're required to go home by a teacher, then they would be signed out similar to signing out a book from the library. That approach could change down the road. We thought this was a good starting point. We're not just jumping into this head first. We did quite a bit of research and looked into other districts. And for some reason, I just can't figure out the higher damage rates really seem to occur at the middle school level. So I think if we can maybe establish some grounds early on, and then we can have further discussion later if we want to make any changes. Down at the elementary levels, we want to move one-to-one as well. That's going to be, again, in a little bit different format. Those will be classroom devices, so students will be one-to-one within their actual classroom. The difference at the elementaries is that some of those classes will get tablets rather than Chromebooks, and that's due to age appropriateness. We do want to transition our students to the Chromebooks, though, because that's what they utilize for state testing beginning in third grade. All of this ties into the technology standards that are put into place by the Ohio Department of Education. I also want to point out that this is a cost to the district, but it's a minimal cost. And the reason why is because Ryan and his committee has been able to redistribute devices for the next school year. We actually do have a wealth of devices across the district, and when the committee started looking into it, a lot of them weren't being regularly used. And the reason why is because we would have a Chromebook cart for a classroom with 30 Chromebooks, because we need to make sure we have one available for every student. But maybe there's only 22 students in that classroom, so there's 8 Chromebooks that aren't being regularly used. So we were able to redistribute those. The other thing that I asked Ryan to do is to develop a consistent replacement process. I felt like in regards to technology, before Ryan came to the district, we underwent cuts, and a technology director was cut at one point and wasn't brought back until just a year or two ago. So I don't think we had the administrative oversight to make sure that we were properly cycling through the devices and making the appropriate and meaningful purchase for the district. A lot of that was really put on the curriculum department. I'm happy to say, and this was part of our goal in moving forward when we hired Ryan into the district, was to bring somebody in with a curricular background, and Ryan is a former teacher. And I think that's key. I know he works very close with Tina and Matt over the course of the year to not just put devices in our schools, but to put devices in our schools that are going to enhance students' education, as well as our teachers' ability to provide instruction for our students. This is all intended to occur over a 3-year period to minimize the cost impact in heading this direction. So like I had mentioned, we'll be starting with the high school next school year. The following year will be the middle school, and then the final year would be the elementary buildings. In addition to this, in order to ensure that all of our students will be able to actually log on to and have access to the internet through these devices, we are undergoing an upgrade to our infrastructure, which the board approved, I think, just last month. And our hand was kind of forced in that upgrade. It's something we knew we needed to do. It became a priority to do it this year because half of it was covered through federal dollars through the big tobacco settlement, and we needed to use those dollars. This year, or we were going to lose them. So half of that cost of something we already had to do is being covered, and it paves the way for us to be able to do this initiative. And yes, we do. I said we're not increasing by that much the devices in the district, but the difference is going to be is where a lot of our districts weren't always or a lot of our devices weren't always active. We're going to have 2,000 students at the high school at once, all on Chromebooks logging in for class, which is a situation that we did not have in the past. I also want to mention that the Chromebooks, the technology department is going to be working some hours this summer because they've got to prep every single one of those Chromebooks that are going to be distributed to our students. And the way they're going to prep them is they're going to install apps that are school relevant. Some of them are related to curriculum. Some of them are related to textbooks. In addition to that, all of these devices will be running through our filter to ensure that students are accessing appropriate information. I think it's important to note that when these devices go home, they are still running through our filter. So even though they're doing homework at home and they're logging onto the internet and they're logging onto their home Wi-Fi, it's still going through our filter system. What we are not doing is we are not monitoring everything that they're doing at home. We are not accessing the cameras on the Chromebooks, which they will have. Simply what we're doing while the device is home is ensuring that they're not going to inappropriate web pages. And the way that works is similar to the way it works during the school day. It kicks out a report if a site is inappropriate. But we have zero intention and definitely do not have the manpower to go and police what's happening all hours outside of the school. So with no further ado, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the one-to-one computer initiative in grades K through 12 over a 3-year implementation process.
Can I get a motion to approve the superintendent action item letter I?
I would make a motion that we approve superintendent action item letter I.
I'll second.
Board discussion.
I'd like to take a minute just to thank Ryan for the time that he put into that, as well as Aaron and the whole staff. I mean, there's been a lot of time talking about this initiative, and Ryan took time outside the school day to make sure work around our schedules to explain some of the details. And we were concerned about what happens to these books. How do you keep track of them, and how we're going to monitor them as they go through the child goes through each of the buildings. You've done a lot of thought, and I really commend you for that, and how you've worked together to match funds while funds were available. So I just want to say thank you very much.
If I could add too, I appreciate the administration too coming up with the device agreement so we could see it as a board and see that the parents are signing off, understanding that there's responsibility for this piece of property that's the district's, and we want to be careful with that technology, and so thank you for all your work on it. We appreciate it.
I'd also like to thank especially Tina. She's been working with other districts in the county, and I believe we are the last county to come up to this one-to-one initiative. So it was great to see it put black and white expectations, even though we know it's probably going to be a little bit fluid. You can't always think. These kids come up with some things that you wonder, how did they ever think of that? Which will be addressed in the future. But yes, so lots of effort. Thank you, Ryan, Matt, Tina.
Agreed. And I think also Jeff Harrison helped work on the guidelines as well, and the handbook, which will be made available on the website and to parents to get additional information on that. I'm excited about this opportunity for the district and for our students, and it's just another tool for our students that they'll be able to utilize. So thank you.
Agree with all of you. I'm very excited for this. Thank the staff. It's going to be great times. Is it any more board discussion? Any member of the community would like to come down and discuss the one-to-one with the board? Seeing none, Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
And relate to that same item, I just wanted to real quick thank our board for your support of the initiatives that we've been moving forward with over the course of the last 3 years. And one of the difficult discussions we have is when we're looking to add personnel. And I think sometimes it can be even more difficult to understand when it's an administrator position because the administrators generally aren't as directly in front of the students as the teachers are. But I think this is a clear example where you have to spend money to save money. And the adjustments we've had with technology in the district in terms of the rotation of the technology, the changes in the procedures that we've implemented, the utilization of some of the grants that are out there, this is exactly why we need people in those types of leadership roles. The last item for tonight, it is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following sponsors per the City of Medina and the Medina City Schools Recreation Center sponsorship agreement as listed below.
I'll move we recommend these sponsors.
second. Board discussion.
Mr. Ross, when this came up, and this is something that there's been lots of conversations about, I was curious if we had a policy on advertising in school buildings. And I looked and I saw that there was one. So I went and was reading it. A couple of lines caught my eye. One of them was about a sponsorship of board-owned property. Individual or group that donates a significant amount of money may be eligible for naming rights. I know that's a little different, but the key word there is significant. And the money that these ads are bringing in, $1,000 times 2 years, 3 years for only $1,900 or $2,000. So again, those smaller amounts. But under the second line, the general advertising guidelines shall be followed with respect to any form of advertising on school grounds. When working together, schools and businesses must protect educational values. All commercial or corporate involvement should be consistent with the district's educational standards and goals. With the rec center, it's a physical fitness facility, and it is owned by the school, but again, run by the city. You could replace the phrase district's educational standards and goals with the rec center's physical fitness exercise goals, and having a candy company advertising their products. And I believe one of the ones that we are asking to approve tonight makes for 4 real estate companies vying for your attention when you go to work out. How does selling your house a goal of a physical fitness facility? I think perhaps just getting a little bit off track. I know I've heard, some of my fellow board members say, as long as it brings in money for the schools, I'm okay with it. I guess I'm saying I'm not okay with it because I guess it's better to vote my conscience than to just go along with the crowd. The city has already documented that they can save on expenses. That's how they accumulated the $2.1 million in carry forward funds that they want to use to pursue the expansion. They want to expand. As they state, they want to compete with other popular fitness facilities like CrossFit, Orange Theory. Would one go into that facility, Orange Theory or CrossFit, and be bombarded with advertising for candy or real estate or auto repair or air conditioning? No. Would you expect to see those types of banners and posters up in the gazebo on Public Square? No. I want the district to be a good partner to our community members and just maintaining the integrity of the facility as it was intended to be. A physical fitness facility is what I'm comfortable with. I learned last week that there's a possibility of 25 more banners going up in the field house. And if you go into other rec centers, you don't see that. You don't see banners plastering every square inch of the wall. While my family are fans, I don't want to feel like I'm at a NASCAR track when I'm walking through our community rec center. I feel strongly we need to reevaluate this advertising endeavor before approving any more banners. And that should, in my opinion, my thought, include a confidential survey administered by an independent third party, not the school district, not the city, not the rec center, to gauge just how much advertising the actual users of the rec center, the members, will tolerate. And I do have some pictures of what, the field, what the track looks like now, and it is pretty much, there's no railing space empty up there. So that's just my thoughts on it.
Thank you, Mrs. Pavlik. I believe that the policy that you're referring to does relate to school buildings. Yes, the building is owned by the school district. However, it's part of the joint operating agreement. And about 4 years ago, we decided to have a special committee which comprised of members from City Council and from the school board, Mr. Ross and I. And it was to reevaluate or to consider the possibility of sponsorships, specifically as it relates to the JOA. So there is a part in the JOA that talks about naming rights, and we wanted to be sure that that's not what we were doing. local community businesses had expressed interest in advertising in the rec center. So the rec center had come to the city and to the district to see how this could be done. The committee met for several weeks during the summer and then made a recommendation to both city council and to the school board. The purpose of this specific policy or addendum to the joint operating agreement is for sponsorship specifically as it relates to the rec center. That's not the same policy that you were referencing. So it's specific to the rec center. The goal being that any proceeds would go into our joint operating account, and that would help offset costs incurred by both the city and by the school district, making it mutually beneficial to us, and that would go towards improvements to the rec center. So although we do own the building, you are correct that we don't manage the rec center. We're not in the business of managing a rec center. We are in the business of educating students, and that's our focus. And we as a district saw that it was important that if we have local businesses that want to support our community, that is great. And then that cost does save the district money because general fund monies would otherwise have to be used to fund that joint operating account. And if we can save those general fund monies to actually be put towards our students and put our kids first, that's what was the board at that time saw as a benefit. I hope that you have expressed your concerns about the rec center to city council, to your local council people. I believe that's where those concerns belong. We've spent a lot of time as a school board talking about the rec center, and we're really responsible for that building and our student use in that building. We've come a long way. We've met with the city. We have a great collaboration with them, whether it's with the rec center or other services that we share. And I really think that we need to focus on our students and what benefits our students most. Thank you.
I understand, and I thank you. I thank you for your comments. But I know we're focusing on students. We need to find that balance and not trump our community members either, because they are the ones who are supporting our students as well. I just think that before future or any more ads are approved, because again, a couple years ago, I was advised that it was going to be opening Pandora's box, and I think Pandora's box has been open. And I just think that it would be a good exercise or not an exercise, but a good effort. Again, finding that fine balance. Other rec centers have advertisers. They do it a lot more, the word I'm looking for, tasteful. Again, it's just you're having every single inch of wall space covered up, and it's starting to lose that physical fitness aesthetics in not look like a gym anymore, a physical fitness facility, but like I said, like a NASCAR track. So
I also forgot to mention that these recommendations come to us after the Rec Center Advisory Committee approves them as well, and that committee consists mostly of community members, and they bring it to us for our approval as well as into the city for approval.
I appreciate the conversation you two had. Very enlightening, but I appreciate the conversation of how it originated. And, if there are changes that want to be looked at down the road, I think there's probably a means and methods to do that. But thank you all for your insight.
And
I appreciate the revenue that it's bringing for the district. We were getting no revenue to help offset the capital improvement fund a couple years ago, and so it's definitely a positive of what it's doing. I don't think we should say there can only be 4 plumbers or there can only be 4 roofers that advertise. I don't think that's our place to do that. If they're appropriate and they're not alcohol or something that's not allowable within school property, I don't think we should make a determination. So I don't follow that argument. I understand Ms. Pavlik's discussion about whether there's appropriateness and locations of them. But again, if we go over to the stadium, there are banners that we have that the boosters use for that purpose, and we're glad the boosters are able to have that revenue that helps pay for uniforms and so forth. And so there's real costs to run a district, and we appreciate the fact that our company that's helping to get these ads is doing such a good job in securing them. So there's a different aspect, a different side of the coin. So thank you.
And I want to thank everyone for their comments. But let me add that anytime you initiate a program and you move forward with it, there comes a time when you have to check yourself to make sure it's progressing as you initially wanted it to. So, Mrs. Parkhurst, you mentioned that committee, that sponsorship committee, that was made up of city councilmen and board members. So at the last rec center meeting, and Mr. Burgart, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we discussed briefly about reconvening that committee to do just that, to check ourselves, to make sure we're progressing in the fashion that we envisioned. And since it's with the city, we want to continue our collaboration with the city, which we have a great relationship with. And that's the purpose, to make sure we're doing it the way, according to the JOA, and we're doing it in the fashion that we had hoped. So there is going to be some kind of, I guess, check and balance, if you will. So we did discuss that, and our meeting was last week. So that's a topic. So thank you all for your comments. You know what? We didn't discuss. We didn't discuss a time frame. I don't know if you remember, John. Okay. But the topic did come up just for that reason. So thank you for your comments, everyone. Any public discussion to address the board on action item K with the rec center? Seeing none, Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
I just want to state before my vote that if Mr. Burkhart, if he had stated that there was a date set or a timeline to have it addressed, so that we know that it wouldn't be just pushed off to the side, I could vote yes, but until we get that timeline established, I'm a no.
Come on down. And thank you for
You're welcome.
providing any information.
It'll be in the rec advisory minutes, but we did talk at our last meeting and this meeting that committee made up of city officials and board members, when they made that committee, talked about reconvening. It's either going to be in a year or 2 years, we couldn't remember, but it was in those initial minutes, was going to reconvene to see how things were going and evaluate. So they did say it was either going to be this year or next year. They had to just look at the minutes, so we were going to look at that.
Thank you.
You just need to finish. Do we finish the vote? You did. Okay.
Okay, next is public participation. Community members wishing to address the board are asked to abide by the following guidelines. Attendees shall register their intention to participate in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. After those that have registered have spoken, if time allows, the board president will ask for public participation from all other attendees. Please state your name, address, and affiliation. Please keep your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others wish to speak on that topic have been heard. And all statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. With that said, any community members wanting to come forward and address the board on anything? Seeing none, I would like to make a motion to move into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline of a public employer official in preparation for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with employees. And that's it.
I'll second.
Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood?
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore?
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik?
Aye.
Thank you.
And no action will be taken upon completion of executive session. Thank you.